as they face that daunting task now to get the ICC to terminate the charges they face. Now, the two, through their legal defence teams, have submitted a 95-page document arguing that they were wrongly accused of these crimes. Well, our correspondent, Jack Parrock, is at The Hague. We chat to him now on the line. Jack, are you there now?
I'm here. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, Jack. Thank you. It's really a make-or-break session for Ruto and Sung. We understand it will be a 4-day process with oral hearings that start today. What's the progress on that, Jack?
Indeed. So we've begun to hear from the prosecution about what they think should happen in this case, and they're obviously saying that the case shouldn't be dropped. They insist that they have got enough evidence. And we'll hear a number of submissions orally within the courtroom over the next few days ahead of what's known as a status conference in the case on Friday, when judges will decide whether this no case to be heard against these two men, whether that motion can be passed. So there's a lot to go before we find out whether it will be dropped, but we're underway in hearing the submissions now.
So, Jack, we understand that there are 3 charges: murder, forcible transfer of populations, and the persecution in the Rift Valley during that post-election violence in 2007. So the trial chamber will have to determine if the motion of no case to answer for every of the 3 charges each of the accused persons is facing, or will a partial rejection of the motion mean that Ruto and Sung have a case to answer and must be put through a defence?
So indeed, so this can be split into 3 separate things. And at the moment, it looks like that it will go all one way or all the other way. If they drop, because of the nature of the evidence being linked together in the cases, and they're all relevant in some ways, it looks like it will either be a complete dropping of the case or that the case and the trial will continue. So we don't know the details exactly yet. The judges will have to decide, and there'll be a lot of deliberations back and forth on this matter. It could be partially dropped, and that would mean that the case would continue. But obviously the Kenyan government and the Deputy Presidents, William Ruto and Joshua Sang, they'll be hoping for it to be, for all these charges against them to be dropped.
Jack, the key question has always been whether this evidence, like you've mentioned, brought by the prosecution is enough, is sufficient to establish criminal responsibility, if you like, in the atrocities committed. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the nature of that evidence and what it consists of?
Indeed. So it's a very complicated set of issues. For instance, let me provide an example from something that was discussed this morning in the court. The prosecution has evidence to say that William Ruto, the Deputy President, has said to somebody that they should go to work in the post-elections, in the time following the post-election. Now, the judge is questioning whether that means literally to go to work, or whether that is an insinuation as an order for somebody to commit crimes. William Ruto is accused of orchestrating the post-election violence. So it's down to the semantics. So it's very, very difficult at the moment. And there's a lot of different elements in the evidence that the prosecution has. The prosecution insists that they do have enough to convict. So we'll have to wait and see. Bearing in mind that in the case of the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, they managed to, his defence team managed to get the trial against him ended.
All right, Jack. Bensouda, we understand she wants to use this evidence desperately. Her case is weak without it. But she's really got her work cut out for her. She's facing off with lead counsel Karim Khan, who's a London barrister of note. He's an international criminal law expert involved in various cases from Yugoslavia, Sierra Leone, to the Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. It's going to be a tough battle either way.
Indeed, so Karim Khan is a formidable lawyer, but Fatou Bensouda herself has a very, very good reputation in international law, which obviously got her the job as the ICC prosecutor. Now, you mentioned in just then about canted evidence. So essentially what's happened as well is that Fatou Bensouda has managed to get evidence that has been recanted by witnesses to be allowed to be used in this trial. The defence of William Ruto said that that should not happen under a law that came in a couple of years ago. But what they're arguing now is whether this evidence can be used, and the prosecutor says she needs to use this. The prosecution team say they need to use the evidence because the evidence that was recanted was forcibly recanted under pressure from the Kenyan government.
Thank you, Jack Parrock. He's our correspondent on the line to us from the ICC at The Hague. Well, time to take a short break, or rather sports news in a moment.